Welcome to Mission Evolution Radio Show with Gwilda Wiyaka, bringing together today's leading experts to uncover ever-deepening spiritual truths and the latest scientific developments in support of the evolution of humankind. For more information on Mission Evolution Radio with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit www.missionevolution.org. And now, here's the host of Mission Evolution, Miss Gwilda Wiyaka.
Hello, dear friends, and welcome to Mission Evolution Radio Show, where we share thoughts with leading experts, uncover expansive and evolutionary truths to support the path to unity and enlightenment. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. This hour we'll be exploring the transformative power of near-death experience. There are few things that teach us as much about life as death or the threat thereof. We tend to go about our lives as if they'll always be there, doing the same old thing in the same old way, wondering why nothing changes. Often, the older we get, the more set in our ways, and the narrower our worldview, until we devolve into mundania, allowing media to dictate our reality. Yet, some experience a life-changing event that knocks them out of their rut, shattering their reality and opening them to an evolution of consciousness. Our guest this hour is just such a person. Robert Kopecky lived many lives until becoming an illustrator, art director, and animation designer for the New York Times, PBS Kids, and more. His path was punctuated by 3 very different near-death experiences. After a dark night of the soul and a decade of study, meditation, and service, Robert's various lives and deaths inspire him to easily pass on the lesson he's learned the hard way. He's the author of How to Survive Death, Life and Death, and his latest, How to Get to Heaven Without Really Dying. He appears online at Gaia, The Mindful Word, Soul Lifetimes, BeliefNet, and more, and on his blog, robertkopecky.blogspot.com. His website, robertkopecky.com. Robert, thanks for joining us on Mission Evolution.
Well, thank you for having me, Gwilda. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's start with, what exactly is a near-death experience?
Well, it's kind of hard to say what a near-death experience is exactly. It's this moment that happens with people when they are at the point of death, or have. Sometimes it's documented in hospitals. They have flatlined. For other people, it may just be an experience of such sort of grave circumstances that they feel as though their life is ending, and spontaneously begin to experience kind of an extra-dimensional trip into the afterlife, so to speak. For me, they were all kind of crucial, critical circumstances that led to my being sent into an extra-dimensional world. Kind of beyond this is the experience that I had. Different from a dream world, more intense, much more realistic, and much less random. So they're all kind of different. They take on different forms in different cultures. So it's difficult to know exactly what they are, other than what I can tell you about my own, which were these experiences of kind of an extra-dimensional afterlife.
Are there consistencies from one person's near-death experience to another?
Yeah, there are. I mean, despite the differences that I was just mentioning, you often will hear of similar motifs and formats. People going through the tunnel to the light at the end of it, or emerging into a kind of an Elysium field where they find their ancestors or deceased relatives, that kind of thing. All 3 of mine were these kind of classic motifs. My first one was an out-of-body experience, and my second one was what's called a life review, and my third one was I was forced back into life, all of which are common formats for people's near-death experiences, although the details are often very custom-made, personally or culturally. But the things that are truly consistent and were in mine, because having the 3 different ones made me really question all of this. What made them different? Why didn't I just go to one place if I was dying each time? The things that were consistent, though, about each one were that I had this experience of being enfolded into and supported by this kind of field of expansive, illuminative love, intelligence, a greater mind, a transcendent sense of total connectedness with everything, and an innate understanding of kind of a shared purpose, kind of wrapped up in oneness in a way. I was liberated from all my material constraints, kind of. And I was also very teachable. There was an instructive element in a near-death experience for me. And for most experiencers, there's some kind of karmic guidance or heavenly instruction, so to speak, that's part of it.
So, we're in pretty evolutionary times right now. Things are changing very quickly. Do you feel that your near-death experience helped you participate more fully in that evolution?
Well, absolutely, yeah, because what I experienced, what I'm telling you are the consistencies, which I refer to basically in the new book as being heaven, right? This being supported by a expansive, illuminative field of loving intelligence and the transcendent sense of total connectedness and all of that. I call that divine consciousness, because when I passed on, so to speak, when I moved into the afterlife, I didn't die. I still saw everything more or less through my own eyes, but I opened up into this greater mind of divine consciousness that I feel informs everything, that I feel is fundamental to the universe, really. And it's this consciousness that's coming into our world more and more all the time. It's obvious every direction you look that this kind of awareness and understanding and feeling of unity is arising in the world. So I can always relate to that in looking at, the craziness in the world. There's always the craziness, but there's always this underlying spiritual sanity that is growing, I think, on a planetary basis.
Do you think that it's always been there and we're just opening up to it? You say it's coming into our world, but are we really just opening our world to what's already present?
Yes, I definitely feel that, I believe it's totally fundamental. I think that divine consciousness, so to speak, as I call it, is what informs and animates everything that we see. It is essentially the nature of all positive creation that there is. And I believe that it was much better understood by earlier peoples. That the indigenous peoples of the world were really connected with divine consciousness in a way that I think the forms of our culture have removed us from, and that we're having to kind of struggle to overcome again and come back into that kind of spiritual alignment with the world and with this field of divine consciousness, which I also equate with love, with pure love.
What do you think about being out of body that facilitated that for you?
The interesting thing about being out of body, and I've divided the new book into three parts: perspective, presence, and purpose, based on each of the three near-death experiences. The first one, being this out-of-body experience, gave me the gift of perspective, of spiritual perspective, in that, when you're knocked out of your body, when you're no longer occupying the physical vehicle of your body, it's very difficult to get the genie back into the bottle, so to speak. In my life, it certainly was. And for a long time, it led to just a kind of a confusion for me. But after years and more hardship and this dark night of the soul that you mentioned in the introduction, I ultimately came around to a spiritual practice that included lots of meditation and service and the like. And I was able to realize that gift of perspective gave me this kind of objective, loving neutrality. I could detach from the pain and struggle of our physical forms and sort of witness the pure spirit coming through people, defined by the package of karmic information that each person is, all your experience, maybe your past lives, things that happened to you in your childhood, the habits that you've grown into and stuff. I witness that now with a kind of a compassionate detachment, and which I call spiritual perspective. I think that I think that's kind of how angels are able to look at us here, right? Struggling through the forms of our bodies that are unfortunately aging all the time and changing, And so being able to witness life with that kind of peaceful detachment in a way makes everything a lot easier. I don't have the same horse in the race that I used to have, so to speak, even if it's me.
So it sounds like it's a form of identifying. I mean, we tend to identify with our restrictions, our roles, etc. But having left that, when you left your body, it changes where you identify. Is that what you're talking about here?
Yes, yeah, it does, because I am no longer defined by those kinds of material roles and those ego constructions, who I'm supposed to be or what I'm supposed to be or how other people see me, that I'm often inventing how other people see me. I don't really know. Most people are concerned more with themselves than they are ever with me, for sure. And so that's a very liberating thing. And in a way, I had these three experiences. A lot of near-death experiencers will have one, and it will change everything for them. I had three, and none of them really worked completely unto themselves to totally change everything.
We're going to have to pick up on the three on the other side of a short pause.
Okay.
Robert and I will be back after this commercial break. You're listening to the Mission Evolution Radio Show, coming to you on the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV. Plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifeology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com.
Welcome back. This is Mission Evolution Radio, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. Remember, past episodes are available on our website, missionevolution.org. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka, and our guest this hour is Robert Kopecky. His website, where you can find out more about him, is robertkopecky.com. Robert, we were just about to get into the fact that you've had not one, not two, but three near-death experiences and how they differed.
Yeah, and the result of each one of them, what I was talking about is that they didn't really totally change me. You know, a lot of people will have one and it will totally change their entire life. Each one changed my life incrementally. I kind of became more and more confused in a way. But it wasn't until I experienced what you might call a death of the ego, all right, where I came to a place in my life, and maybe as in the cumulative effect of the three near-death experiences, nothing was really working for me very well. And I found myself in a place where everything that I thought I was, this kind of ego structure of my life, you know, the material constructions that I'd built around me, what I thought I was and stuff, stopped working. And at that moment, I became absolutely humble, you know, enough to be teachable. And I think that that's kind of the aspect of the death experience that our souls require. You know, you have to die to go to heaven. And so in that sense, I think this kind of ego death, or being able to let go of all of these structures of material imagination, is important and really necessary for us to get to that place where we can really expand our consciousness into this field of divine consciousness that I'm talking about.
You know, the indigenous peoples for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, for their holy people, they have initiatory processes that does shatter the ego. It shatters the identification.
Right.
And it sounds like this was orchestrated for you, whether you wanted it or not. Why do you think that's so?
Well, I think in part it's because this is our natural technology. You know, I believe that there is a vast, incomprehensible spiritual technology at work in the universe, in this world, in our lives. Those indigenous people were much more in tune with it. They didn't have these kind of ego structures of material power, you know, the imaginary power that we tend to have. And so without living in a culture where I experienced the kind of ritual death of the ego, like a lot of those tribes and peoples of the past and present in different parts of the world, being part of our this kind of cultural, spiritual gridlock that we're in here, that there's a lot of spirituality is suppressed a great deal by our media because it doesn't serve commerce particularly well. Because of that, I think I had to go through this. It was my karma to go through these things to inspire that same kind of ego death that one might have gotten in ritual in a different culture years ago.
Robert, do you remember if you were intending something at the time that might have initiated this for you?
If I was intending something at the time of each near-death experience, you mean, or at the time of the dark? My dark night of the soul?
The near-death experiences, it seems to me like our intent plays a big role in what happens to us, even if we have karmic predisposition.
Yes, and that, I mean, for me, that's what it's ultimately come to mean, the three completely different experiences. It's, you know, what's up with that? Why should they be? Why should everybody's experiences be so different? Why should Christians encounter Jesus and Buddhists encounter Yama, or Hindus have Yamraja and Chitragupta read the Akashic book to them. Everybody has these different sort of culturally informed experiences, so they're custom made. They are custom made to the kind of karma, the information that we carry into the next life. And so I believe there's kind of a pattern recognition. You know, it's a seamless transformation into the next world, and that's how we realize the next reality that we take part in. And then when we come back, when we're resuscitated, hopefully, we can only come back and speak about it in the terms that we have with human language. And so we can only report on the forms, the archetypes, the experiences that we've had this way, like I'm talking to you right now about it. And so that, I think, is kind of indicates what the custom-made nature of everybody's differing near-death experiences.
Well, it seems like what we're doing there is if we leave our body, we're going into the quantum field. We're going into pure energy. Mm-hmm. And that's a unified place and not linear. And our minds process linearly. So are we actually grabbing onto the archetypes of our culture to translate the information that we're getting?
Yeah, it's that struggle with the duality, right? Divine consciousness, this field that we're talking about, the Planck field, or however you scientifically want to put it, I think of it as something maybe more alive, if that's possible, or more imagination-based or something. Everything becomes possible in that experience. Everything opens up in a field of total potential, sort of thing. So I'm sorry. What was your actual question?
We get lost.
I lost my train of thought a little bit.
Yeah, I was just wondering. When we leave our body, we're put in pure energy, which is the quantum field, and because the quantum field is more unified and our brains work linearly, are we grabbing onto the archetypical representations of our culture to explain or to translate what we're perceiving at the more unified state?
Yeah, it's that struggle with the kind of duality and the fact that divine consciousness is indivisible, that we still have these kind of ego structures that basically I think we're here to get over them in many ways. And I think that this is the death experience the soul requires to enter into that pure field of divine consciousness.
There's another thing you brought up that's very interesting that I've always been curious about, and that's your life review. What do you think causes that? What's the purpose there?
Well, it's interesting because each experience was at a time in my life, and when I look back at it, the nature of each experience seems very custom-made again to the part of my life that I was in. I think that in the first part of my life, I was living so materially, driven by ambition as we are when we're younger, that an out-of-body experience gave me that realization that we're spirits traveling around in these body vehicles. And in the second experience, the life review, it's the same thing. I think my life was shifting more towards meaning, maybe, and something that I needed to realize was the effect of living in the eternal moment, and how this moment itself that we're always experiencing is really the only place where we can engage and create and respond to the kind of karmic callings of our life, so to speak. I was shown these situations where I hadn't been present, and so that gift of presence is what I needed at that point in my life to realize how I can't just skate past all these important moments of my life. I've got to be open and aware with as much conscious awareness as I can be in each and every moment, because miracles are being revealed all the time, and these kind of karmic callings, these answering relationships that are necessary for my growth and for the growth of the other people in my life too. So that was what I needed, I think, right at that time in my life.
You've spoken several times about karmic. What do you mean by karmic? What is a karmic calling?
I believe that this is going to sound very trippy, maybe to some of your listeners, although most of your listeners are probably accustomed to people talking this way, but I believe that we're essentially sort of formless packages of energy that have these kind of soft feathered edges, and it expands out in front of us into the future and behind us in the past, and is concentrated in this eternal moment where it is occupying our body and where we have, our focused consciousness right now. And those packages of energy are made up of information that we are carrying through eternity where, time space is a different thing when you're out of this biological form. So eternity is a now of infinite limit, no limits at all. And so this package of information that's me, all the things that I've ever experienced, all the cause and effect I've created or continue to create is the karma of my ongoing life, of my spiritual existence. And so coming to terms with that, being able to reach into this box of time that I'm occupying now and understand my karma and seeing the opportunities for me to correct it, or to burn off bad karma, or to create cause and effect that will lead to hopefully the best life I can have, that's all what my karma is, and what all of us have. That's really a shared experience in a very individual way.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So do you think we pick our karma?
Yes, I do, and I think that when you're present in the moment, in the eternal moment right now, you're able to witness what your options are, right? You're able to make choices, which are probably the most important aspect of this life. Where are you going to pick up on to go?
Choices on the other side of yet another commercial break. Robert and I will return to our discussion on the other side. You guys stay right there. This is Mission Evolution Radio Show on the X Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net.
From our broadcast studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, to the world and beyond, you're watching the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
AVS Media Demo.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com.
Welcome back. This is Mission Evolution Radio Show, www.missionevolution.org, bringing the latest tools and information to support the path to enlightenment. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka, and we're speaking with Robert Kopecky. His website, robertkopecky.com. Robert, now, when we're talking about near-death experience, they are all characterized by being out of body. Is that correct?
Yes, I was not aware of having a body as it is at all. I don't remember like seeing my hands or walking around. I do remember being me, naturally, and all near-death experiencers do report having experienced this extra-dimensional world through their own eyes, so to speak. So I was always myself as well as part of this greater self. I didn't seem to have the boundaries of a body necessarily.
You know, this brings up an interesting point, because if we're out of body, where are we thinking and experiencing from?
Well, from what aspect of this greater mind that makes up me, from this kind of package of karmic energy. I mean, these are questions that are really hard to wrap your mind around, especially if your mind is part of a larger mind and not, It's like trying to grab a hold it's like trying to capture lightning in a bottle, kind of. The Gnostics used to describe our experience here as being separated from the infinite fullness, right? The infinite effervescent illumination that is heaven, that is God. And we're just this little piece of it. And so this spark is sort of like my mind, on this earth, trapped in this body and partially generated by this brain, which I feel our brains are also receivers, transmitters, projectors, and are able to gather in, to engage into this larger field of divine consciousness.
So you're speaking of an evolving brain.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that a lot of it has to do with how we have a misperception problem. We're kind of stuck in a part of our brain in this experience of life as human beings that has a lot to do with those ancient patterns, those ancient neuroscience. We're kind of stuck in our amygdala, where a lot of fear-based and survival-based instincts are governing us. But we are evolving as conscious awareness comes into our field of being. I believe that we are expanding. And so if this is the nature of neuroscience now, neuroanatomy. It's this growing field where no matter how far you look, how much more information you have, there's always more. It's always opening up into more expansive horizons. And I believe that we are in the course of a spiritual evolution here, where our understanding of what our brains are capable of, or how our brains actually work, is expanding dramatically. And so we're becoming more sixth sensory creatures all the time, as I believe we are, extra-dimensional beings.
We seem to have these neurological ruts that we're programmed into, from socialization to media to everything else. Is it a matter of breaking out of these?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really interesting if you look back. In the present section of the new book, I explore the Dhammapada and the Bhagavad Gita and the Gospel of Thomas, the poetry of Rumi, the Gnostic Gospel of Jesus. I think I mentioned that. And if you look back into Hinduism, for example, in yoga they have what's called samskaras. And samskaras are essentially neural patterns. That's what they're describing thousands of years ago. These kinds of courses that our thoughts habitually travel into. We might think of them as thought loops, where something will come up, you owe a bill, or you have a resentment, you feel like somebody did something bad to you, and that enters into your mind, it clicks into place, and it travels down this kind of canal, kind of like fluid, and we have to consciously be able to take that stream of thoughts and move it onto new ground, like shift the direction of those neural pathways. And that's what a lot of neuroscience is suggesting, that we can retrain our brains and the actual functioning of our brains largely through meditation. And I'm a big proponent of meditation. I think that's where I discovered heaven on earth, is meditating, really.
There's a lot of talk lately about heart intelligence as well. Did you experience becoming more heart-centered after your near-death experiences?
Absolutely, yes. And I think that that's a big part of what this experience of heaven on earth is in many ways. The people that you recognize as having that certain something that transcends the material difficulties of this world are heart-based people. And if you want to get scientific about it, you can you look no further than the Heart Math Science Institute up in Petaluma in California, where there's been lots of research done into the actual nature of the cognitive nature of the heart. The heart is a cognitive organ and is made up of similar, on a similar cellular level as brain matter, and so it's not any surprise to people that your heart is determining what you think lots of times. So therefore, it is a source of thought. And I believe that in alignment with your right brain, with your parallel processor, as opposed to the left brain, which is like a serial processor, right, that is constantly arranging and organizing things. The right brain, there's a holistic experience of a greater consciousness that is then wired through the cognitive aspect of your heart. This is all getting very spiritually technical, isn't it? Wow.
It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Well, the heart actually spins the red blood cells and creating electromagnetic field around the body, like a toroidal field.
Yeah.
Isn't that the interconnectedness between people?
Yes, and that's described also, in ancient stuff. The Hindus and stuff have layers of subtle bodies, and you can think of it in terms of being a Merkaba or a torus effect, just like the electromagnetic field around the Earth. People have these fields, and if you are open to it, naturally, and even if you're not, lots of times you notice it. There's no way around it. You walk into a room and there's a certain energy or vibration, and that's a real thing. And so, yeah, we expand out. That's kind of my theory of being these kinds of fields of energized karmic data,
Well, we talk about evolving into the future, and yet this hour, I've heard you refer back to ancient practices. What's going on there?
Well, the thing that I realized with my life review was that this moment is always valid and always has been in all of human understanding. So if you look back at the thinkers of the past, the people who wrote the Upanishads or the Vedas or the early Gospels or the Buddha himself, for example, all of that teaching, all of those observations are perfectly valid and maybe even more valid than a lot of what we are learning now. So I've found a great deal of inspiration and real usable information by looking into the past as the present. It really is the present. And in fact, a lot of those people, they didn't have anything else to think about. They may not have even had writing. A lot of it was totally memorized. A lot of this stuff was oral traditions, so volumes of amazing information passed down one person to another by pure memory. You've got to figure that maybe they were smarter, certainly smarter than me. I could never do that.
Well, it seems like there's a certain amount of mastery, though, that you really need to follow a practice. What do you think about the tendency in the New Age community to take a little from here, a little from there, and never really master any of it, and then name it after yourself?
That's ego. That's a structure of human ego. That's still back to the sort of fearful aspect of our brain where the only saber-toothed tigers alive are between our ears. That's where all of that kind of self-aggrandizement or self-enhancement and stuff comes from. At its heart is what Aldous Huxley used to call the perennial philosophy, right? Which is these aspects of every religion that are the core truths in all of them, and through this kind of cultural thing that we're wrestling with, that we were talking about, indigenous people, tribal people didn't have, they didn't have it. We can winnow through all of this different information down to where the core truths really are. The near-death experience, I think, tends to sort of center or focus the survivor in that space automatically, in a way. So, for me, it's just an innate knowledge as a result of having had those experiences. It doesn't make me any better or worse. It's just my particular path to it.
3 near-death experiences. That's quite the path.
You don't want to do what I did. I do not. The thing about 3 near-death experiences that I can tell you definitely, Gwilda, is don't have them. Try not to have 3 near-death experiences. You can learn a lot about what I learned by reading my book or by reading the books or listening to the stories of other near-death survivors.
Well, we're going to have
reading
to take
this ancient stuff,
We're going to have to take a break, but on the other side, we're going to try to figure out how to get to heaven without dying. Robert and I will be back shortly, so don't you dare go away. You're listening to the Mission Evolution Radio Show on the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
The new nonfiction book, Razor of Madness, is similar to cult movies like Clockwork Orange, Dragon's Tattoo, or The Other Side of Hell. Wayne Morin Jr. and Thomas Lee Howe will expose widespread and systematic deficiencies in this thought-provoking tell-all novel. Mind control rages among scholars in law schools. Human rights are ignored while thought reform and mental manipulation are accepted practices used as behavior modification. Dr. Louis Jolyon West comes to mind. Media and public scrutiny shows that United States mental hospitals are in fact destructive murder industries. Razor of Madness expose novel details this epidemic through an in-depth professional and personal investigation. For decades, there has been a revolving door policy that still releases killers and pedophiles back into society. The maestro of mind control continues to haunt America to this very day. Razor of Madness is available in paperback or as a downloadable ebook at Amazon.com.
I'm William S. Peckham. If you enjoy a good mystery with a touch of the paranormal, then you'll love my novel, From Out of the Woodwork. It's the story of a young Toronto contractor, Sean Kennedy, who buys derelict homes, guts them, and turns them into multifamily dwellings. Slums just waiting to happen. When Sean buys 29 Livery Lane, the house fights back. Former owners unexpectedly come out of the woodwork as he starts the destruction. The apparitions come to him when he touches old books, reads hidden letters, rummages through old boxes, finds a locket, or reads a discovered manuscript of a murder mystery. From Out of the Woodwork will take you from 1899 to the horror of the World Trade Center, September 11, 2001. Check out From Out of the Woodwork on my website, www.williamspeckham.com.
Welcome back. This is the Mission Evolution Radio Show, www.missionevolution.org, bringing the latest developments in an evolving world. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. I always love suggestions from my listeners. Email me at info@missionevolution.org to propose a topic or guest. I'm sure we'll all enjoy them. Our guest this hour is Robert Kopecky. His website, robertkopecky.com. Robert, we were about to get into the good stuff here, as in, okay, so how do you get to heaven without dying?
It's all good stuff. The important part is without dying. That's the important part. For me, I think that the lessons that I learned of perspective indicated that there are these sort of principles or means by which we can get to that place. And so when you think of what heaven is to you, if it's not a given location, right, if it's not one single place, it's more this state of being, then what is the state of being that exists in heaven? Well, to me, it's a nice place. It's always a very nice place, full of nice people, angels and the like. And so kindness is a principle that can align us with that experience. It's a truthful place, right? There's no ulterior motives or manipulation. So honesty is another principle. It's an equal place of equality, where everybody is teachable and humble. So humility is a quality that aligns you with heaven. It's an understanding place where nobody's perfect and everybody understands what you're going through. So forgiveness, the ability to spontaneously forgive and to receive forgiveness, thank God, is an aspect of that heavenly experience. Everybody is very empathetic and supportive and understanding. So that compassionate consciousness, compassion is a part of it. And then everybody in heaven will drop everything to give you a hand if necessary. There's a sense of service that's automatic and unconditional with that. So kindness, honesty, humility, forgiveness, compassion, and service are these principles that can align us with an experience of heaven. It gives us a different perspective on this life.
So by your definition, what is heaven?
A state of being, really, a state of being. I may very well be, an actual world that we end up on at some point. I think that there are differing worlds for differing levels of experience, different kinds of experience for people. But the thing that is the same for everyone in whatever life we're living, I think, are these experiences of being enfolded in love and having a transcendent connectedness and an understanding of why you're here and being teachable, It also exists in stillness, in this moment of presence. So in the presence part of the book, I talk about that too, where, you ground yourself in the now in a way that is comfortable and where you realize that this is where you can make everything happen right in here, right in this moment that we're experiencing. And then in my last experience, I was forced back into life. I had these kind of spirits sort of say, you're not supposed to be here. You've got to go back and finish what you were doing. And so that's that purpose that we all are here for. It's like our own mission evolution, right? I'm on a mission that only I can fulfill. And it has to do with realizing what I'm good at, what I love in my life, what other people want me to do for them, what I need to do to show up for other people. And that determines my purpose and my comfort in going through life and realizing that life is happening for me, not to me.
So do you think we have a mission? Each of us has a mission that's like a part of the larger whole mission?
I do. I don't pretend to know what that all means, but I certainly do. That my third near-death experience, where I was kind of forced back into this life against my will, And I've heard it many times with other near-death experiencers. That couldn't indicate anything else to me, except for that we are each on our own kind of individual mission to overcome this delusion of separateness, to realize that we are all one with God all the time, so to speak, all a part seamlessly of divine consciousness together, all the same thing.
So if we're standing in that place, in that recognition of that place, are we operating at a different frequency, and is that a frequency people can attune to?
Yeah, I believe so, and I think that that's kind of the trick to it. You will notice if you look at people with what I call angel eyes in the book, you don't label, you don't judge, you don't compare, you don't start imagining things about them. You can witness this kind of pure spirit coming through them, this kind of pure expression, and enter into that sort of experience with it yourself, where there's this kind of seamless connection with everybody, if that makes sense.
So you're kind of talking about just living your life in that way is a big part of the mission.
Yeah, and when you see that kind of expression coming through people, and sometimes somebody might be antagonistic towards you or something, it's not you. It's that they need to be expressing that because they are seeking the path to create this kind of form where they can fit back in. Again, it's kind of, to me, kind of like the Gnostic Christian aspect of having a lightning trapped in a bottle, kind of, to liberate that spark so that it can rejoin that kind of heavenly fullness. And when you do things, for example, when you follow those principles of kindness and honesty and humility and forgiveness and compassion and service, those things align you with the vibrations that are that fullness, that illuminative, divine conscious field of love that is heaven, basically.
Do you find that by standing in that place, there's a natural push-pull? In other words, you repel people that aren't really willing to go there yet and attract the ones that are looking for it?
Yes. Yeah, is the short answer to that. People that are subject to the definitions of their ego mind, that are kind of, that don't realize that the crazy voice in their head is not really who they are. They're not able, in fact, that aspect of themselves is threatened. And I used to be that way, Gwilda. For many, many years I was like that. Even after my third near-death experience, I still had characteristics in that way, where people would come up to me and just be open and loving and obviously tuned into something that I didn't feel I had, and I felt threatened by it. And so I didn't trust them, or, I thought they were strange, that kind of thing. Well, now I'm one of those strange people, and I find myself talking to people about what we're talking about today, and they roll their eyes, and they don't believe it. They say, it's all impossible. How could you possibly imagine all this? And I tell them, well, it starts with us being on a planet in outer space. That's where you're starting here. So there's nothing that isn't miraculous about this all.
How can the information you've gained through your near-death experiences help people evolve as human beings at this time?
Well, I mean, that's really what I'm trying to do with this book is, in the perspective part, to give them those, what I call the rungs on the ladder, that are these principles that you can join. You can't think your way to heaven or to this kind of state of expanded consciousness. You have to act your way there in this life. And the same kind of understanding of the eternal moment that we're always living in. And then in the purpose section, I talk about not just realizing our personal purpose in life, our personal mission, but also what our collective mission is here. I mean, we're all called upon to enter into this kind of spiritual sanity that will inform an appropriate stewardship of this beautiful planet as a living being itself that we're all part of. If you stand back from the planet at arm's length, we're clearly all one thing. We are all the life of this planet. And so we have to join together in our hearts, even one person at a time, even just on your own, to make these realizations, is how this great wave of compassionate consciousness is starting to overtake the world. And we'll be able to kind of return this place to the garden, so to speak, because the problems that we're creating right now are self-made obstacles to love and to divine consciousness. And with a little spiritual sanity, we can see it quite clearly. And we know that the answers are spiritual and lie in this kind of direction back towards heaven.
Do you think that we have soul teams here? In other words, people that came to work with us as a team to get this accomplished?
Yes, I do. And I believe that that's part of our personal purpose in this life, too, is to recognize that, Why am I in your life right now? Why am I in my wife's life? Or how come we're born into the families we are? There's clearly some kind of arrangement that requires our recognition of the other. The other, in the Sufis call it the friend, to find the friend, that then you kind of conjoin with, and that creates a sense of wholeness in heaven, so to speak. This kind of realization of both parts as being the one. So we hold on to the joy and the sorrow, the opposites.
It's hard to believe, Robert, but we're actually out of time. Thank you so much for coming on this show. It's been a fascinating hour.
Thank you, Gwilda. It's been a lot of fun talking to you.
Our guest this hour has been Robert Kopecky, the author of How to Get to Heaven Without Really Dying. You can find him on his website, robertkopecky.com. Remember to join our email family to stay abreast of all the exciting new things we have coming up at missionevolution.org. This has been the Mission Evolution Radio Show with Gwilda Wiyaka on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Join us next time as the mission continues, bringing resources and support to an evolving world.
Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifeology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com. Are you or is someone you know struggling with addictions, depression, anxiety, relationships, low self-esteem, lack of confidence, grief, success, and prosperity? Do you know that your subconscious belief plays a big role in the outcome of your hard work? We can help you permanently change the beliefs that may be the reason for your struggles and failures. We care about getting you the return on your investment and the results you are looking for. We can help you be free of the limitations of your past and in realizing your highest potential. We work with people by phone and Skype. For more information, visit us at www.ritasoman.com. That's www.ritasoman.com. Do you think you have energy problems in your home? Do you feel better when you're away than when you're home? Joey Korn is a global leader in the world of dowsing who specializes in personal energy clearing and space clearing. He can help you create an ideal energy environment in your home no matter where you live in the world. Learn about his remote spiritual house cleaning services and much more at www.dowsers.com. You can get Joey's book, Dowsing, A Path to Enlightenment, as well as other dowsing books and tools, Kabbalah books, and Walter Russell books. Joey's work is really amazing. Go to dowsers.com right now. That's DOWSERS.com, or call 1-877-DOWSING. That's 1-877-369-7464.